The alien princess was astonished to discover the human warrior is her true husband. Months had passed since the bondstone first glowed in the snow, and Earth was healing. Cities once reduced to rubble now hummed with new life, powered by Zenthari energy cores and human grit. Lena walked through the rebuilt streets of Anchorage, her boots crunching on fresh gravel, her eyes scanning not for threats but for signs of hope. Children played near clean water fountains. Green shoots pushed through soil once poisoned by war, and above it all Zenthari ships hovered not as invaders but as guardians, yet peace was fragile. Lyra knew this better than anyone. From her temporary chamber in the Human Command Center, a room lined with furs and star charts, she monitored transmissions from the Zenthari High Council. Their silence was not acceptance, it was calculation. Elder Karan and his faction had not forgiven her defiance. They waited, watching for weakness. They will not attack openly, Lyra told Lena one morning as they shared a meal of roasted fish and root vegetables. But they may try to break us from within. Lena nodded, her expression grim. I've seen it before. When people lose power, they get desperate. That same day, a distress signal crackled over the comms. A small settlement in the Canadian wilds reported strange activity. Zenthari drones scanning the land not for resources but for something else. Lyra's blood ran cold. She recognized the frequency. It was a soul trace pulse used only in forbidden rituals to sever bondstones. They are trying to undo us, she whispered. Lena stood immediately. Then we stopped them. They took a single Zenthari skiff, small and fast, painted with human symbols to avoid suspicion. The journey was tense. Below them, forests stretched endlessly, scarred by old fire but greening again. When they landed near the settlement, they found it empty. Doors hung open. Food sat cold on tables. But no bodies. No signs of struggle then. They saw the circle in the center of the village square. Scorched into the earth was a Zenthari rune of unbinding. At its heart lay a shattered bondstone. Not Lyra's, but a replica charged with stolen resonance. Someone had tried to mimic their bond, to trick the cosmic weave into unraveling it. This is dark science, Lyra said, her voice shaking. Only the bloodline of the old priests can perform this. Who would do that? Lena asked. Lyra's eyes darkened. My cousin, Varek. He has always wanted the throne. If our bond is broken, I lose my claim. And you? You become just another human. Lena's jaw tightened. Not happening. They tracked the energy trail deep into the mountains. Snow fell heavily, muffling sound. At the base of a frozen waterfall, they found a hidden cave. Inside, Varek stood over a pulsing machine, his silver robe stained with ash. Around him, bound in energy cuffs, were 3 human children. You, Lyra hissed. Varek turned, his face sharp with arrogance. Cousin, I wondered when you would come. These humans carry faint echoes of your bond resonance. Their fear amplifies it, perfect for my work. Lena stepped forward, her rifle raised. Let them go, Varek laughed. Or what? You will shoot me? Go ahead. But if I die, the machine overloads. This entire mountain becomes a crater, and your precious earth loses more than just a few brats. Lyra's mind raced. She could not risk the children, but she could not let Varek succeed. Then she remembered an old teaching from her childhood. Bondstones do not just connect souls. They can also redirect energy, Lena, she said quietly. Trust me, Lena. Met her eyes and gave a small nod. Lyra walked toward Varek, hands raised. You want to break the bond? Then face me directly. No machines, no tricks. Let the cosmos decide. Varek sneered. You are weak. Love has made you soft, perhaps, Lyra said, but it has also made me strong in ways you will never understand. She reached into her robe and pulled out her bondstone. It glowed steadily. Then, with a swift motion, she slammed it onto the machine's core. Light exploded. The cave filled with blinding blue energy. Varek screamed as the machine backfired, its stolen resonance turning inward. The energy cuffs around the children dissolved. Lena lunged, grabbing them and pulling them behind a rock just as the machine shattered. When the light faded, Varek lay unconscious, his own bondstone, fake and cracked, smoking at his feet. The real one in Lyra's hand pulsed stronger than ever. They returned the children to their village. The people wept with relief. That night, around a fire, an elder handed Lyra a carved wooden token. "You saved our future," she said. "You are one of us now." Lyra accepted it with tears in her eyes, but the victory was short-lived. Days later, a Xanthari dreadnought appeared in orbit. Not Karan's ship, not Varek's. This one bore the sigil of the Imperial Guard, the personal fleet of the Empress, Lyra's mother. A message came through, cold and formal. "Princess Lyra, you are summoned to the throne world. Your bond with the human is under review by the Sacred Conclave. Failure to appear will be seen as treason." Lena read the message twice. "They're going to separate us." "Not if we go together," Lyra said. "They won't let me on your world." "They will," Lyra insisted. "The bondstone proves our union is real. The Conclave cannot ignore cosmic law, so they prepared." Lena wore a simple tunic of white gifted by the villagers. Lyra braided starlight thread into her hair. They boarded the dawn chime and left Earth behind, the blue planet shrinking in. The viewport, the throne world of Xanthara, was nothing like Earth. Cities floated among clouds of liquid light. Trees grew crystal fruit that sang in the wind. But the beauty felt cold to Lena. Everywhere she looked, Xanthari stared, not with curiosity, but with judgment. They were escorted to the Hall of Echoes, a vast chamber where the walls remembered every word ever spoken within. The conclave sat in a semicircle, 7 elders including Karan, and at the center the Empress Solara was tall and severe, her eyes the same silver as Lyra's but without warmth. She did not rise when they entered. "You bring a human into our sacred hall," she said, her voice like ice cracking. "Explain yourself." Lyra stepped forward. "Mother, this is Lena, my bonded. The bondstone confirms it." Solara's gaze shifted to Lena. "A creature of dust and blood. How can she be worthy of our bloodline?" "Worth is not measured by origin," Lyra replied. "It is measured by heart. Lena has saved more lives in 1 year than our fleet has in a century. She stood when others fell. She chose mercy when she could have chosen revenge." Karan scoffed. "Pretty words, but the law requires proof beyond." "A glowing rock, then let the trial begin," Solara said. The trial of echoes was ancient. The bonded pair would stand in the center of the hall while the walls replayed their memories. If their souls were truly aligned, the echoes would harmonize. If not, the dissonance would shatter the bondstone, and the weaker Solena paled. "I don't remember past lives. You do not need to," Lyra whispered. "Just hold my hand, and be true." They stood together as the walls came alive. Scenes flashed, Lena as a child, building snow forts, Lyra as a girl, hiding in libraries to avoid court duties, Lena losing her parents in the first bombardment, Lyra weeping alone after her failed bonding ceremony. Then the moment they met in the snow, the visions of the Golden Temple. Every choice they made since, the elders watched, silent. Even Karan leaned forward. Then came the test. The walls projected a new scene, one that had not happened. In it, Lyra stood on the throne, crowned empress, while Lena knelt at her feet as a servant. "Choose," the empress commanded. "Will you raise her as your equal, or keep her in her place?" Lyra did not hesitate. She reached down, took Lena's hand and pulled her up. "She stands with me, not below me." The vision shifted. Now Lena held a weapon to Lyra's throat. "Will you kill her to protect your people?" the empress asked. Lena lowered the weapon. "I would die before I hurt her." The hall fell utterly silent, then the bondstone flared so brightly it filled the room with light. The walls sang, a single pure note that resonated through every bone. The trial was complete. The bond was true. Solara stood slowly. Her expression did not soften, but something in her eyes changed. "The cosmos has spoken." She turned to the conclave. "The union of Lyra and Lena is recognized under sacred law. Any who oppose it oppose the will of the stars." Karan bowed his head. Even he could not argue with the song of the walls afterward. In a private garden of floating blossoms, the Empress spoke to Lena alone. "You are not what I expected." Lena met her gaze. "And you're not as cold as you pretend." A flicker of surprise, then the barest smile. "My daughter has chosen well." Days later, Lyra and Lena stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. Below, Xanthari citizens watched as human engineers worked alongside them, building a new kind of future. "Do you think we can really do this?" Lena asked. "Bridge two worlds?" "We already have," Lyra said, squeezing her hand. "Love is the first bridge. Everything else follows." They returned to Earth a month later, not as fugitives, but as ambassadors. The Empress had granted Earth-protected status, and trade routes opened between the stars. Humans sent seeds and music. Xanthari sent clean energy and healing tech in Anchorage. A new building rose. Not a fortress, but a school. Its walls bore carvings of two figures, one with silver eyes, one with scars, standing side by side under twin suns, and every night, Lena and Lyra walked the shore watching the northern lights dance. They spoke little. They did not need to. Their bond was not in words but in presence, in the quiet certainty that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The alien princess was astonished to discover the human warrior as her true husband. Peace had settled over Earth like a soft blanket, but Lyra knew better than to trust stillness. In the Xanthari teachings, calm was often the breath before the storm. She watched the stars from the roof of the new school in Anchorage, her fingers tracing the edge of the bondstone tucked in her robe. It glowed steadily, a quiet hum against her skin tied to Lena's presence somewhere below in the training yard. Yet something nagged at her, a whisper in the cosmic wind, a ripple in the resonance that should not be there. Lena felt it too. She had stopped sleeping through the night, her dreams filled with shadows that spoke in broken Xanthari. One morning, over steaming cups of bitter root tea, she said, "Something is coming. Not from your people. Not from ours." Lyra nodded. "I feel it in the bond. Like a third pulse, faint but growing." They consulted the elders of both worlds. The Xanthari archives spoke of an ancient race, the Krylos, who vanished eons ago after attempting to weaponize soul bonds. They believed true pairs were not meant to unite but to be harvested. Their combined life force could power engines capable of tearing holes in reality. The Empire had hunted them to extinction, or so they thought. Then the signal came. It was not a transmission but a resonance spike deep in the Kuiper belt. The Xanthari sensors picked it up first, a frequency that mimicked the Bondstone's song but twisted, hungry. Lyra's blood turned to ice. "They are alive," Lena stood, her face hardening. "And they know about us within hours." They were aboard the dawn chime, racing toward the outer solar system. The ship moved silently, cloaked in human-designed stealth tech woven with Xanthari light-bending fields. As they neared the source, the Bondstone grew hot in Lyra's hand, its light flickering like a frightened heart. There, hidden in the shadow of a dwarf planet, floated a vessel unlike any they had seen. Black and jagged, it pulsed with stolen energy. Around it, 3 derelict ships orbited. 2 Xanthari cruisers and 1 human freighter, their hulls drained, their crews gone. "They are feeding on bonds," Lyra whispered. Lena checked her weapons. "Then we cut the head off the snake." They boarded the Krylos ship through a ruptured cargo bay. Inside, the air was thick with static and the scent of burnt metal. Walls pulsed like living tissue, and in the center chamber, suspended in a web of glowing filaments, were dozens of bondstones, some cracked, some dark. All screaming silently, at the heart of the chamber stood a figure cloaked in tattered silver. It turned, revealing a face that made Lyra gasp. It was Varek, but changed. His eyes were hollow, his skin threaded with black veins. A Krylos device clung to his chest, siphoning his life force. "Cousin," he rasped. "You came just in time. Your bond is the strongest I have ever sensed. With it, I will not just power this ship. I will rewrite reality." Lena raised her rifle. "You're not Varek anymore. You're a parasite." Varek laughed, a dry, broken sound. "I am evolution. The Krylos showed me the truth. Love is weakness, but it's energy. That is power." He activated the chamber. The filaments tightened around the stolen bondstones. A wave of pain shot through Lyra and Lena as their own bond flared in protest. Memories flickered, Lena falling in battle, Lyra screaming her name. "The temple burning again. They are using our past against us," Lyra gasped. "Then we give them a new memory. Lena said through gritted teeth. She fired, not at Varek but at the central conduit feeding the web. Sparks flew. The chamber shuddered. Varek roared and lunged, his hands clawing for Lyra's throat. Lena tackled him and they crashed to the floor. Rolling through broken glass and sparking wires, Lyra ran to the core of the machine. She knew what she had to do. The bondstone was not just a symbol, it was a key. If she channeled their combined resonance into the system, she could overload it. But it would require both of them to open their souls completely, and if the Krylos device resisted, it could burn them out. Lena, she called. Trust me one more time. Lena pinned Varek down, her knee on his chest. Always Lyra pressed the bondstone to the core. Then she reached out with her mind, not as a princess, but as a soul. She called to Lena, not with words, but with everything she was: love, fear, hope, grief, the memory of snow. The taste of shared bread. The quiet nights under Auroras, Lena answered, not as a warrior, but as a heart. She sent back her own truth. The weight of loss, the fire of defiance, the peace she found in Lyra's eyes. Their resonance surged. The chamber exploded in light. The stolen bondstones shattered, releasing trapped echoes that howled like ghosts before fading into peace. The Krylos device on Varek's chest cracked, then burst into black dust. He screamed once, then went still. The ship began to collapse. Lena grabbed Lyra's hand. Run. They sprinted through crumbling corridors, the hull groaning around them. Behind them, the Krylos vessel imploded, folding in on itself like a dying star. They barely made it to the dawn chime before the shockwave hit back on Earth. They buried Varek's body in the mountains, under a stone carved with both Zenthari and human symbols. He had been lost, but he was still family weeks past. Life returned to its rhythm, but something had changed. The bond between Lyra and Lena was deeper now, forged in fire. They could sense each other's thoughts at the edge of awareness, feel each other's pain as their own. It was not always easy, but it was real. Then came the invitation. It arrived on a beam of pure light coded in the oldest Zenthari dialect. The Empress summoned them to the heart of the galaxy, the nebula of origins where the first bondstones were said to have formed. The message was simple. The union must be sealed in the cradle of souls. They knew what it meant. The final rite. The moment their bond would be woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself. They traveled for days, the dawn chime slipping between stars like a whisper. When they arrived, the nebula took their breath away. Clouds of violet and gold swirled around a quiet singularity, humming with the song of a million bonded pairs. At its center floated a temple of light, built not of stone but of memory inside. The Empress waited alone. No guards, no council, just a mother and her daughter. You have faced the darkness, Solara said. Now you must choose the light. She led them to the chamber of echoes reborn. Here there were no tests, no trials, only a pool of liquid starlight. Step in together, she said. If your bond is true, the nebula will accept you. If not, you will be unmade. Lena looked at Lyra. Ready? Lyra smiled. I was born ready. They stepped into the pool. The world dissolved. They were not two souls anymore, but one current flowing through time and space. They saw Earth's first sunrise. They felt the birth of Zenthara's twin moons. They witnessed countless pairs finding each other across the void, some human, some alien, some beyond naming. And through it all, their thread remained unbroken. When they emerged, the nebula sang a new note, one that had never existed before. Their song, the Empress bowed her head. The cosmos welcomes you on the journey home, Lena asked. What now? Lyra looked at the stars, then at the woman beside her. Now we live, we build, we protect what we love. And they did in the years that followed. The school in Anchorage became a beacon. Children of Earth and Zenthari learned side by side. They studied war not to repeat it, but to understand it. They studied peace not as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of justice. Lena trained a new generation of guardians, not soldiers, but protectors of balance. Lyra worked with the Council to rewrite old laws, ensuring no bond would ever be used as a weapon again. They never married in the human way or the Zenthari way. They simply were. Husband and wife, warrior and princess, earth and star, bound not by title but by choice, and every night, no matter how busy they were, they walked the shore together. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they did not, but the bondstone, now warm and steady in Lyra's pocket, and the quiet strength in Lena's step, said everything that needed to be said. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but as long as they stood together, it was also full of hope. The end. The alien princess was astonished to discover the human warrior is her true husband. Years had passed since the nebula sealed their bond, and the world they built stood strong. The school in Anchorage had grown into a city of learning, where human children played with Xanthari young under domes that shimmered with both northern lights and starlight. Lena walked its paths daily, her steps slower now, her hair streaked with silver but her eyes still sharp as winter steel. Lyra walked beside her, her silver robes replaced with simple tunics woven from earth cotton and Xanthari thread. They no longer needed titles to be known. Everyone called them by name, yet peace, even the deepest kind, carries its own weight. The older they grew, the more they felt the pull of time. Humans aged quickly, their lives brief as candle flames. Xanthari lived for centuries, their bodies changing slowly, their minds accumulating lifetimes of memory. Lyra watched Lena's hands tremble sometimes after long days. She saw the way Lena winced when the cold bit deep into old wounds. And though she never spoke of it, fear coiled in Lyra's chest like a sleeping serpent. Lena felt it too. One evening, as they sat on their porch watching the auroras, she said quietly, "What happens when I'm gone?" Lyra's breath caught. "Do not speak like that, I have to," Lena said. "You know I do. I won't live to see our grandchildren's children, but you will. And I need to know you'll be okay." Lyra turned to her, tears in her eyes. "There is no okay without you. You are my soul, Lena. Not just in this life, but in all of them." Lena reached out and touched her cheek. "Then find me again, like you did before." The words hung in the air, heavy with love and sorrow. Not long after, a new signal came. Not from the stars, but from deep beneath Earth's crust. Scientists from both species had been drilling near the old Alaskan fortress when they hit something impossible. A chamber older than human civilization, older than the Xanthari Empire. Its walls bore carvings of two figures, one with 4 fingers, one with scars, standing before a glowing orb. And at its center lay a second bond stone. Identical to Lyra's, they traveled to the site together. The air inside the chamber was still, charged with ancient energy. As Lyra stepped forward, her bond stone flared, and the one on the pedestal answered. Light filled the room, and a voice echoed, not in words but in feeling. It spoke of cycles, of return, of love that outlasted death. Lena understood first. "This is a way station," she whispered. "A place where souls wait to be reborn." Lyra fell to her knees. "It is a promise." They spent weeks studying the chamber with scholars from both worlds. The carvings told a story older than history, the first bond between a Xanthari scout and a human shaman, thousands of years ago, when Earth was young and the stars were still strangers. They had loved, they had died, and they had left this place so their souls could find each other again. It was not magic. It was memory written into the bones of the planet. Lena began to change after that, not in body but in spirit. She spoke less of war and more of legacy. She gathered the young guardians and taught them not just how to fight, but how to listen. To the wind, to the stars, to the quiet voice inside that knew right from wrong. She wrote down her memories in a book bound in icefox fur, so future generations would know the cost of peace. Lyra, in turn, worked with the Empress to open the Xanthari archives to humans. She argued that knowledge should not be hoarded but shared. Slowly, the Empire changed. Young Xanthari came to Earth not as observers, but as students. They learned to plant seeds, to mend broken bones with human hands, to cry when they felt loss one spring morning. Lena did not wake up. She had gone to sleep beside Lyra as always, her hand resting on the bond stone between them. In the night, her breathing slowed, then stopped. There was no pain, no fear, just quietly. Ra held her for hours, whispering promises into her hair. Then she carried her to the mountain where they had first stood together as bonded. The whole city came, humans and Xanthari alike. They built a cairn of ice and crystal, and placed the second bond stone at its peak. As the sun rose, it glowed with soft blue light. A beacon for the soul it loved. For weeks, Lyra did not speak. She walked the shore alone, her steps heavy. The bond stone in her pocket was warm but silent. The resonance that had hummed between them for decades was gone. Then one night she dreamed. She stood in the golden temple again. But this time Lena was not in armor. She wore the simple tunic of a child. Her face young, her eyes curious. Behind her stretched a line of souls waiting, and Lena looked at Lyra and smiled. "Find me when the time is right." Lyra woke with tears on her cheeks and hope in her chest. She returned to the school the next day. She taught the children about stars and soil, about courage and kindness. She told them the story of a human warrior and an alien princess who chose love over war. And when the youngest ones asked if they would ever meet Lena, Lyra would smile and say, "She is everywhere, in the wind that carries your words, in the fire that keeps you warm, in the choice to be brave when you are afraid." Years passed. The cairn on the mountain became a place of pilgrimage. People left tokens, carved stones, woven bracelets, poems written on bark. And every year on the day Lena left, the bondstone on the cairn would glow brighter than ever, as if answering a call only Lyra could hearken. One winter, a child was born in the city of learning. Her name was Maeve. She had dark hair like Lena's and eyes the color of storm clouds. And when she was 3 days old, she reached for Lyra's hand, and the bondstone in Lyra's pocket flared to life. Lyra wept. She did not rush. She did not claim the child. She simply watched. As Maeve grew, she showed the same fire, the same quiet strength. She climbed trees before she could walk well. She shared her food with strangers. She stood up for the small one. On Maeve's 7th birthday, Lyra took her to the mountain cairn. Snow fell gently around them. Maeve placed her small hand on the bondstone and it glowed like a captured star. "Do you remember me?" Lyra asked softly. Maeve looked up, her eyes full of ancient knowing. "I remember you waited." Lyra knelt and pulled her close. "I will always wait." They walked back to the city hand in hand. The auroras danced above them, green and gold and blue. The school bells rang in the distance. Life went only. Ra knew she would not raise Maeve as a replacement. She would raise her as herself, a new soul, shaped by old love, free to choose her own path. And when the time came, if Maeve chose to walk beside her, Lyra would be ready. The bond was not a chain. It was a circle, and circles have no end in the quiet of the night. Lyra still spoke to Lena, not in grief but in gratitude. "Thank you for showing me Earth. Thank you for teaching me courage. Thank you for loving me across lifetimes." And somewhere in the space between stars and soil, Lena listened. The end. The alien princess was astonished to discover the human warrior is her true husband. Maeve grew like a wild northern flower, rooted in snow but reaching for light. By the time she was 10, she could track a snow hare by its breath in the wind and recite Zenthari star poems from memory. She had Lena's stubborn set to her jaw and Lyra's quiet way of listening before she spoke. The bondstone on the mountain glowed every time Maeve passed near it, not with the fierce pulse of war, but with the steady warmth of home. Lyra watched her with a heart both full and aching. This was not Lena reborn, not truly. Maeve was her own person, fierce, curious, kind, but the echo was there, like a familiar song played on a new instrument. She did not push. She waited. And when Maeve asked questions about the warrior in the old stories, Lyra answered honestly. She was brave, Lyra would say, but not because she never feared. She was brave because she chose to act even when she was afraid. Maeve would nod, her storm gray eyes thoughtful, like when I stood up to Kale for teasing the little ones. Exactly like that, the city of learning thrived. Humans and Zenthari no longer saw each other as alien, but as neighbors. Children played games that mixed Earth rules with Zenthari logic. Gardens bloomed with both potatoes and crystal vines. And every evening, the community gathered in the central square to share food and stories, but peace. Even the deepest kind is never without shadow. Rumors began to drift in from the outer colonies. Whispers of ships vanishing near the edge of known space, of signals repeating a single phrase in broken Zenthari. The bond must be broken. At first, Lyra dismissed it as old fear. The Krylos were gone. Farik was dust. The Conclave had outlawed soul harvesting under penalty of eternal exile, yet the disappearances grew. Then came the day Maeve did not return from her solo tracking. Exercise. Lyra felt it before the search party arrived. The bondstone in her pocket turning cold, its light dimming. Her blood ran colder. She ran to the mountain cairn. The stone there was dark. Panic clawed at her throat, but she forced it down. She was not the young princess who trembled at uncertainty. She was the guardian of a legacy. She activated the dawn chime's long-range sensors and found it. A faint energy trail leading beyond Pluto, toward the dead zone where no ship dared go. She did not hesitate. She boarded the skiff alone, her hands steady on the controls. As the ship leapt into the void, she whispered to the stars, "Hold on, Maeve. I am coming." The trail led to a graveyard of ships, human freighters, Zenthari scouts, even ancient Krylos wrecks, all orbiting a blackened asteroid. At its center pulsed a machine, crude but powerful, built from scavenged parts and fueled by stolen resonance. and tied to its core, struggling against energy cuffs, was Maeve. Standing over her was a figure in tattered council robes. Elder Karan. He looked older, his silver skin dull, his eyes burning with fanatic fire. "You should have let the old ways die, Lyra," he rasped. "Bonds between species weaken the Zenthari soul. I will purify our bloodline by ending this abomination." "She is a child," Lyra said, her voice low and dangerous. "And you are a traitor," Karan laughed. "I am a savior. This machine will drain her echo, the last trace of that human warrior, and use it to sever all cross-species bonds in the galaxy. Purity will be restored." Maeve met Lyra's eyes. There was no fear in them. Only trust. Lyra knew she could not fight him head-on. Karan had rigged the machine to detonate if tampered with, but she remembered the chamber beneath the mountain, the way station. "The promise you think bonds are weakness," Lyra said, stepping closer. "But you are wrong. They are the strongest force in the universe." She reached into her robe and pulled out her bond stone. It flickered weakly. Then she did something Karan did not expect. She placed it on the ground and stepped away. "What are you doing?" He sneered. "Proving you wrong." She turned to Maeve. "Remember the stories I told you? About the temple? About the choice?" Maeve nodded slowly. "You have to want it." "Yes," Lyra said. "Not because you are Lena, but because you are Maeve. And you choose to stand with me." Maeve closed her eyes, and in that moment she did not reach for the past. She reached for the future. She thought of the children she protected, the songs she sang, the way Lyra's hand felt when they walked the shore. She poured all of it into the space between them. The bond stone on the ground flared, not with the blue of memory, but with the gold of new creation. Corin stumbled back as the machine shrieked in protest. The stolen resonance inside it rebelled. The energy cuffs around Maeve dissolved. Lyra lunged, pulling her away just as the machine overloaded light filled the asteroid. When it faded, Karan was gone, consumed by the very force he sought to control. The graveyard of ships drifted peacefully once more back on Earth. The community welcomed Maeve with tears and songs. That night, around a fire, she asked Lyra, "Was that really her?" "Lena?" Lyra shook her head. "That was you. Your heart. Your choice. The past gave you roots, but you grew your own branches." Maeve smiled. "Good. I like my branches." In the months that followed, Maeve began teaching the younger children not just how to fight, but how to build. She led projects to clean the rivers, to plant forests where war had scorched the land, and every evening she walked the shore with Lyra, their steps in quiet rhythm. One day, as they stood on the mountain overlooking the city, Maeve said, "When I grow up, I want to go to the stars." Lyra's heart swelled. "Not to fight?" "To learn, to share, to make sure no one ever feels alone again." Lyra pulled her close. "Then I will go with you." Years passed like falling leaves. Maeve became a bridge in her own right, part human, part Zentharian spirit, wholly herself. She traveled to colony worlds carrying seeds and stories, showing others that difference was not danger but strengthly. Aged slower, but not untouched. Lines creased her eyes from laughter and worry. Her silver hair grew long, often braided with earth flowers by Maeve's hands. She never stopped teaching, never stopped hoping. Then came the day the Empress summoned them one last time. Solara was old now, her light dimming. She sat in the garden of floating blossoms, her hands folded over a new bondstone, one carved from both Zenthari crystal and earth oak. "The conclave has changed," she said. "Because of you. Because of her." She looked at Maeve. "You are not heir by blood, but by choice. Will you guide our people into the next age?" Maeve did not answer right away. She looked at Lyra, who simply nodded. "The choice is yours, I will," Maeve said. "But only if Earth remains my home," Solara smiled. "Home is not a place. It is who you carry with you." So a new era began. Maeve split her time between worlds, her presence a living treaty. Lyra stayed mostly on Earth, tending the school, watching new generations grow. And every time Maeve returned, they walked the shore together, just as before. One winter evening, as snow fell softly on the cairn, Lyra felt it, the familiar pull in her chest, the whisper in the wind. She knew her time on Earth was nearing its end, not with fear, but with peace. She called Maeve to her side. "You do not need me to tell you what to do," she said. "You already know." Maeve held her hand. "I will keep the bridge strong, and I will watch over you," Lyra whispered. From wherever souls go, when Lyra passed, it was quiet. She sat in her favorite chair, a book in her lap, the bondstone warm in her palm. Outside, the auroras danced in colors no one had ever seen before. Blue, gold, and something new. Like the first light of dawn, they buried her beside the cairn, under a stone carved with 3 names, Lena, Lyra, and Maeve. And that night, the bondstone on the mountain glowed brighter than ever, as if 2 souls were welcoming a third. Maeve stood watch until morning, then she returned to the city, her step sure, her heart full. She gathered the children and told them a new story, not of war or loss, but of 3 women who loved across time, and how that love built a world where everyone belonged, and in the quiet spaces between stars and soil, the bond hummed on, not as a memory, but as a promise for all who dared to choose each other. The end. The alien princess was astonished to discover the human warrior as her true husband. Princess Lyra of the Zinthari Empire stood alone on the highest balcony of the royal spire, her silver eyes fixed on the distant blue dot in the sky. It was Earth, a world her people had long dismissed as unworthy of attention, yet for the past 3 cycles, something about it had tugged at her like an unseen thread. Reports from the outer fleet spoke of fierce resistance, of humans who fought with primitive weapons, but unbreakable wills. Among them, one name rose above all others. Lenalina was not a general or a queen. She was a soldier from the northern wastes, a woman who had rallied the broken remnants of Earth's armies after the Zinthari first strike. She wore no armor of energy or alloy, only patched furs and scavenged steel. Yet she had downed 2 Zinthari, skiffs with a jury-rigged railgun, and led a raid that crippled a supply depot on Mars. Her face, scarred from old battles, appeared in every intercepted broadcast, calm and steady as she spoke to her people. "We do not kneel." Lyra had watched those broadcasts in secret, her heart pounding each time Lena's voice filled the chamber. It was not admiration alone that stirred her. It was recognition. Deep in her bones, in the core of her being, something ancient stirred awake. The Zinthari believed in soul bonds, pairs of souls forged in the heart of the cosmos, destined to find each other across lifetimes, across species, across stars. Each Zinthari carried a resonance within their blood, silent until their true match drew near. Lyra's had been quiet her whole life, until nowhere advisors had warned her. "Princess, do not waste your focus on vermin," Elder Karan had said, his voice dry as dead leaves. "Humans are short-lived, chaotic, and unworthy of your attention." But Lyra could not look away. She had ordered her personal cruiser, the Dawn Chime, to monitor Earth's northern sector. She watched Lena lead a night raid through snowstorms, her breath visible in the cold, her eyes sharp as flint. She saw her comfort a wounded child, share her last ration, stand guard while others slept. There was honor in her, a kind the Zinthari had forgotten one evening. As the twin moons of Zenth rose over the capital, Lyra made her decision. She would go to Earth, not as a conqueror, but as herself. She told no one. She disabled the ship's transponder, slipped past the orbital patrols, and set course for the frozen tundra, where Lena's last stronghold stood. The Dawn Chime landed in a valley blanketed in snow, its engines humming softly to avoid detection. Lyra stepped onto the ice, her silver robes shimmering under Earth's pale sun. She carried no weapon, only the bondstone, a smooth, palm-sized orb passed down through generations of Zinthari royalty. It remained dark, as it always had. But, as she neared the human fortress built from wreckage and ice, it began to glow faintly, a soft blue pulse that grew stronger with every step. At the gate stood Lena. She was taller than in the broadcasts, broader in the shoulders, her dark hair tied back in a rough braid. Frost clung to her lashes, and her gloved hand rested on the grip of a modified plasma rifle. Her eyes locked onto Lyra with the sharpness of a predator. "You're the Silver Ghost," Lena said, her voice low and rough. "The one they whisper about in the fleet comms. Come to finish us off in person?" Lyra raised her hands slowly. "I come alone. I carry no weapon." Lena's gaze flickered to the bondstone in Lyra's hand. It pulsed brighter. "What is that?" "Proof," Lyra said. "Proof that what I feel is real." Lena narrowed her eyes. "Feel? You feel something for us after your ships burned our cities?" I did not order those attacks, Lyra replied, and I would undo them if I could. But that is not why I am here. I am here because my soul knows yours. Lena let out a short, bitter laugh. You expect me to believe that? Some cosmic destiny between an alien princess and a human grunt? Believe what you must, Lyra said gently. But look at the stone. Lena hesitated. Something in Lyra's voice, the raw honesty, the lack of arrogance, made her pause. Slowly she stepped forward. The bondstone flared as she neared, its light spilling over the snow like liquid sky. When her fingers brushed its surface, both women gasped. Visions exploded in their minds, a golden temple under twin suns. Lyra in royal robes, younger, terrified as invaders stormed the gates. A warrior in simple leathers, Lena's face but in another body, standing before her, sword raised. I will not let them take you, the warrior vowed. Then fire, screams. The warrior falling, shielding Lyra with their body. Lyra's tears falling on still skin. A promise whispered, I will find you again. The vision faded. Lena stumbled back, breathing hard. That wasn't real. It was, Lyra whispered, tears in her eyes. You were my guardian in the last cycle. You died for me, and now you are here. Lena shook her head, but her hands trembled. I've never left Earth. I was born in Anchorage. My parents were teachers. I don't remember any temple. Memory is not required for the bond, Lyra said. Only the soul remembers, and yours has never forgotten mine. Before Lena could respond, alarms blared from the fortress. Red lights flashed along the walls. A lookout shouted, Zentari dropships inbound, 3 of them, weapons hot. Lena's face hardened. She turned to Lyra. Your people are coming to kill us again. They do not know I am here, Lyra said quickly. But I will stop them. She activated her wrist comm. This is Princess Lyra of the Zentari throne. All approaching vessels, power down weapons. Immediately static hissed, then a familiar voice crackled through. Elder Karan. Princess, you are on that primitive rock? Return at once. The human leader must be eliminated. Lena is under my protection, Lyra declared. By the ancient law of soul bonding, she is my bonded. Any harm to her is treason against the crown. Silence stretched for a long moment. Then Karan's voice, tight with fury. The bondstone is a myth. You are deluded by sentiment. Then look for yourself, Lyra said. She held the bondstone high. Its light intensified, shooting a beam of pure energy into the sky. Every Zentari ship in orbit had sensors tuned to that frequency. The bondstone only activated for true pairs. And now it blazed like a newborn stare aboard the command cruiser. Karan stared at the readings. The resonance matched Lyra's genetic signature perfectly. And the other half was human. Impossible, yet undeniable. Stand down, he ordered, his voice hollow. All units retreat to high orbit. The dropships veered away, their weapons cooling. The snow fell again in silence. Lena watched them go, her expression unreadable. When she turned back to Lyra, her eyes were wet. You just defied your entire empire for me. I did not defy them, Lyra said. I reminded them of who we are supposed to be. The Zentari were once protectors, not conquerors. You helped me remember that. Lena looked down at her own hands. Calloused, scarred, human. I'm just a soldier. I don't know how to be whatever this is. You do not need to be anything but yourself, Lyra said softly. You already are my warrior, my equal, my heart. They stood there for a long time, the wind swirling snow around them. Inside the fortress, humans watched through slits in the walls, unsure whether to cheer or fear. But Lena turned and raised a hand. Stand down, she called. She's with us. In the days that followed, the impossible began to take root. Lyra used her authority to declare Earth a protected world under Zentari law. She opened channels of communication, shared medical technology, helped rebuild power grids. Humans remained wary, but they saw the change. Zentari ships no longer rained fire, They delivered supplies. Lena and Lyra walked the ruins together. They spoke of small things. How to start a fire without tech, how to read Earth's stars, what it felt like to lose someone you loved. Lena taught Lyra to track wolves in the snow. Lyra showed Lena how to listen to the hum of the planet's magnetic field, a song only Xanthari ears could hear. One night, as the aurora borealis painted the sky in green and violet, Lena asked, "What happens when your people demand you return?" "Then I will return," Lyra said, "but not alone. You come with me." Lena frowned. "I don't belong in your world. I'd be a curiosity, a pet. You would be my bonded," Lyra said firmly. "My consort, my voice in the council. They will listen, or they will fall. The bondstone has spoken. The law is clear." Lena was silent for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay. But on one condition." "Name it. You help us heal Earth first. Not just the cities, the land, the oceans, the people." Lyra smiled. "That was always my intention." Weeks turned into months. The war did not end with a treaty or a surrender. It ended because two women chose to see each other not as enemy, but as home. Humans began to trust. Xanthari engineers worked alongside Earth scientists. Children waved at alien ships in the sky, and through it all, Lyra and Lena stood side by side. Not as princess and warrior, but as partners. As soulmates. As proof that love could cross even the widest void. One evening, as they sat by a fire outside the rebuilt command center, Lena reached for Lyra's hand, their fingers intertwined. 4 slender alien digits and 5 rough human ones. The bondstone rested between them, glowing softly, no longer a secret, but a promise. "I still don't understand how this works," Lena admitted. "You do not need to understand," Lyra said, leaning her head on Lena's shoulder. "You only need to feel, and in that quiet moment, beneath a sky full of stars both old and new, they did. They felt everything, the past, the present, and the future they would build together. The war was over. Not because one side won, but because 2 hearts refused to let it continue. The end.